Browning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in this part 2, with the risk-based approach, which is the piece of the bill that we very much support, that is the part of the modernisation that was envisaged back something like 11 years ago when this bill first was raised. And of course, when it first came, there were some parts in it that looked particularly draconian and seriously concerned a lot of people. A lot of small producers thought they would automatically be going out of business when this bill was implemented, and have to go into levels of bureaucracy, I'll call it, that currently they didn't, and they could see lots and lots of expenses coming from that. There are still concerns about that. There are concerns for some, particularly processors rather than, say, fruit and vegetable producers, but more the people processing, doing cheeses and the likes, and we had very good submissions on that, that are anxious that their costs will, as the Minister has outlined, will come down and they will be able to carry on their business in a very good way. Some of the changes, though, that were put through that we're very happy about was the inclusion of a Good Samaritan clause to allow people to keep donating to food to those in need, because there are organisations, and there's a great one in Wellington here called Kibosh, and they were submitters that go around and they pick up food that at the end of the day a supermarket or a cafe or restaurant won't be running through to the next day, but still is healthy or certainly viable and safe food. I'm not sure about healthy, some of them might be a lot of sweet treats. But they are able, through this clause, to carry on that without having to go into some sort of compliance level that would prevent them doing that. So that is fantastic. Swapping food over the fence, that was another area that really, really concerned people, because you could read into the bill the way it was that might actually be a transaction be under barter, and of course barter in terms of the Inland Revenue Department is a sale, and it should be, because we can barter some pretty big things that would be effectively avoiding tax and the like. So that was teased out, and there was a solution to that, and people in the community, through their families, over the fence, down the road, at the community garden, swapping, could do that. The fact that seeds, as was outlined earlier, might get caught up in it, that was sorted out. What we will be needing now is some very good work with the Minister, and she's agreed to meet to try and do that, is around the point of exemptions from these different tiers of risk approaches to risk. I think the tiers are great, and the different schedules we'll get into later reflect those tiers of risk. However, the smallest producers do not need to be incorporated into that. And I did suggest through the select committee process that for the smallest ones there should be an affidavit system, and maybe through the regulation we can still do that, where the smallest ones actually sign an affidavit to say that they do understand the food safety issues and know about washing their hands and making sure certain contaminants don't go near the food, and potentially under a certain level of production they will not have to go into a situation that they would say, blow it, I'm out of here, I'm not going to carry on this business, that we'd be all the poorer for if they didn't. So to have that extra safeguards put into the bill that allowed for the scale of the enterprise, so the Fonterras, the peanut butter manufacturers, whatever, would be treated differently than somebody growing a few lettuces or picking a few apricots and wanting to sell but not being able to afford the compliance costs. So there will be a way, Mr. Chair.
Stephen Browning.
Thank you. There will be ways of achieving that. It could go the other way, and it will depend on the people implementing it. A lot of the fears that were driven were video clips and the likes from activities in the US where food safety officers were going in a fairly heavy-handed way and appeared to be driving some people out of business. So it was, I think, an achievement that we all did come to common agreement. Some of us actually visited this, some of the producers at their homes or their points of business, and I know from both sides of the house we certainly met one of the cheese makers and saw what the real situation was for them. And pardon? Yeah, well, one of them would be called Daisy, wouldn't it? But I'm not sure. But there was someone with just 3 or 4 cows who was making a handcrafted cheese, but seriously, you think of the production, a total turnover of $20,000, and yet would end up with compliance fees of thousands of dollars. And so clearly that was not about $20,000 of profit, that was turnover. So it was absolutely critical. Now, some of that is not caught up in the food bill because it's under the animal products regimes too. So there's some crossover there that I know the Minister and all sides of the House will want to sort out in time to make sure there's good harmony and we can make some good progress. There's other parts of the bill that I'd like to speak to particularly, and I will and hopefully will not be cut short because I had more debate on part 1, and I'm hoping when we get into some other parts that we'll be able to have the debate in full rather than be cut short, because I do have something I need to outline around genetic engineering, which does not quite fit with this risk management part, which is around production of food in New Zealand. And I'm pleased to say no one is legally able to produce food that's genetically engineered in New Zealand at this time. And so it does not actually need to be outlined in the risk management strata that's in section 2. So thank you, Mr. Chair. The Greens are happy to support this aspect of the bill.
Mr. Chair. Call Reno Tirakatini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased to speak on part 2 of this bill. And this is really the